Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess show on IBM TV. My name is Sasha Starr, and it's my great honor and pleasure to introduce the famous American Grandmaster, three times US champion, many times US Open chess champion, great author, and great chess educator, Lev Alburt, Grandmaster Alburt. Welcome to our studio. It's my great honor to
Thank you,
have you.
Sasha. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Yeah,
Yes,
Lev, I always was wondering how you could, after moving to US, so quickly to become elite grandmaster with so many chess titles and victories. How you were able to accomplish all that so quickly?
Well, I cannot say I wasn't a child prodigy. I was normal chess player when I was growing up, and then I moved up and moved into so-called second echelon of Soviet chess, and where I stayed. And when I moved from Soviet chess to second chess, it became relatively easy because Soviet chess was at the time numero uno, number one in the world. So I became number one in America, or at least number two, together with Serova. And I remained on the top for about 12 years. After that, I decided to do something else. I was 45, won my third US championship, and I decided to move into book publishing and book writing. Fortunately, I was very closely affiliated and friendly with Roman Pels, your fellow Tarvantian, my former coach in Odessa, and really great coach who had a great plan for sharing Soviet chess school with the West. So we produced, Roman produced, and I published Comprehensive Chess Course Volume 1, Volume 2, which became like the foundation of my other books, which I wrote partly, of course, I used Roman advice, but Roman moved to other activities, has his own big school in Toronto. And I moved to continue his course together with my other grandmaster friends, Sam Palatnik, whom you know, Alex Chernin, Roman Ginjikashvili, Nikolai Kroyus, and so on. It was my activity, and still is my main activity up to today. Albeit I'm a little bit more like Sam.
Well, of course, beside being a great chess player, and I'm impressed with your accomplishments as such, but you're also a man of great education. You have many talents. So essentially, you could apply yourself to just about anything what fancied you and what you really wanted to explore. That's a very admirable quality of you,
I'm not so
which is not
sure.
very typical. Huh? Sorry?
I'm not so sure. I think that I'm not so sure, unlike say Anatoly Karpov, who is great in all games. He can be shown a game and he would play it in few hours. He would play it better than the guy who showed it to him. Practically any game, any card game, and so on. I'm really good only in chess, and I was educated as a scientist in theoretical physics, but I had no real gift for this field. Really, my main gift is in chess. I'm interested in other fields as well, but I don't think I'm kind of have any special talents in other areas, especially not in business area. Albeit I became like little chess businessman in terms of publishing. But again, my strength is in chess, my knowledge of chess. I used to know practically all great chess players. I learned from many of them, especially from my good friend and mentor Michael Botvinnik, from Nikolai Krodius, from Boris Spassky, really from many others, which helped me to become a strong chess player and eventually and later good chess teacher and good chess writer and publisher.
Well,
So
good company.
like Kasparov, I don't think I'm multi-talented. I'm kind of I'm more like
Amazing.
hedgehog rather than fox.
Amazing. Actually, I met great Michael Botvinnik very briefly in 1983 in Toronto during the World Computers Championship. And, my image of Botvinnik was very different. He was very easygoing, very approachable, and very friendly. So a lot of people
Very
think
true.
that he's very uptight and so on, but I didn't find it that way. What about your?
He was very friendly with people he liked. He was very rational man, and he learned very early how to kind of separate himself from people he didn't like to be associated. But like son, he was very open to him.
Yeah, you know, um, what you said about Karpov is very interesting. He was ultimate player, and it's not just chess, but almost anything. I remember one very interesting episode when, after World Chess Festival in St. John's in 1988, I was there with Nava, and we flew together into Toronto from St. John with Karpov. And I knew, of course, Nava knew him from before, and we talked, and there were a few hours between landing in Toronto and his flight to Amsterdam. So I invited him to spend some time in our house, and we came. And he offered if I played him earlier backgammon sometimes. So he offered to play backgammon, but not short version as popular in the US, but long backgammon version, which I played, but I was not as good as in the short one. So anyway, we played a match, and the score was 4-4. And I told him that, Toля, we have to leave because your flight is, and, I drive very fast, but I may not make it. He says, who cares about flight? We cannot stop the game with the score 4-4. We must play until somebody wins. So let's play one more game. So we played the game, and he won. He was very happy about it. And I drove as fast as I could, and we made it on time to his flight. But it was funny that he was risking to miss his flight. And he said, there are so many flights to Amsterdam. Who cares? I will rebook on the next flight and so on.
Not gambler in Russian would be a grok who likes to play, and unlike, say, Botvinnik, who is more analytical.
Yes.
Gary tried to be also more analytical, but Anatoly is more like a player, a practical player.
It's very interesting. When they played their great matches, at one point, I think I was in Vancouver. I forgot, it was 1986 probably. And I spent a lot of time with Grandmaster Duncan Suttles, and we discussed these matches. And I was very curious about his opinion on both players. And what Duncan Suttles said, that when he is looking at Kasparov's game, he understands everything, the great opening, the energy, the attacks, everything he could understand. The way Karpov played games, he complained that he just couldn't understand. Sorry?
Now I see.
Sorry, your connection is not good.
But saying would be an interruption, and you wanted to clarify something. Is this email or call? And it's not your fault, and not Nguyen's fault. I'm sure it's something wrong either with me or because I learned to use computer when I was already 71, or it was 5 years ago, or alternatively something with my computer, which is now 6 years old. So it could be something wrong with computer already.
Lev, it's a great pleasure to meet you. We know that it's computer internet problems, but it's still fantastic to have you. Yeah. Anyway, I would like to share my screen. I would like to show one of your games. that I had a great pleasure. I've seen it probably before, but now I'd like to show you.
Okay, we'll be glad to comment.
Just a moment, let me share my screen. Just a sec. Sorry, a couple of minutes delay.
Take your time, Sasha, take your time.
Okay, can you see the screen? Hello?
I can see pieces on the board.
Okay. So, of course, you played many games against Max Dlugi, whom I know well as well. And this is just really fantastic display of your opening convictions, at least at that time. And here how the game goes. So you're playing modern defense, if you'd like. And
when the game was played?
The game was played in 1990. It was U.S. Chess Championship. So very energetic opening. And it's yes.
I was playing white or black.
You were playing,
I was playing white or black.
Yeah. On the top of the board, you see your name. Yeah, you were black in this position.
Which I play?
You're playing Maxim Dlugi. Dlugi was white and you're black.
Who?
Maxim Dlugi. Maxim Dlugi.
Dlugi?
Yes, Maxim Dlugi.
Really? Maxim Dlugi? Interesting.
Yeah, it was more than 30 years ago. The time flies really fast.
Oh, but it was probably 5 minutes game.
Well, the way I see it, it was Sasha? Played. It was a U.S. Chess Championship match.
What? 5 minutes game?
No, I don't think so. Although, I mean, in database, it doesn't show that it's 5 minutes games. And if it's in database, it must be.
It was played in August 1990?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, it was playoff game. I can tell you the story.
It was a playoff.
I won the game, right? It was 5 minutes game.
Oh, I see. So it was a playoff, right? Probably it was a playoff.
Yes, it was 5 minutes game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you played with such a energy and you overplayed him quite easily, the way I see it. Well, it's already won probably for black. And here the game ends after rook g8 and rook g2. So checkmate is coming, and white obviously resigned anyway. So what's so interesting is that essentially you were the fantastic opening specialist, especially in two openings. It's a Benka Gambit, and it was the Aleutian defense. And it was very interesting. We spent a lot of time in St. John with the late Michael Tal. And at the time, I played one game with somebody. I played in something.
This is often caused by unstoppable internet connection, unstable.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. I played one obscure game in some of the lower sections, and I played white with somebody, and I played here e5, knight d5, and I played knight c3. And Michael Tal was staying by. He told me that, Sasha, look, knight c3 is a good move, but not in this position. I asked him why.
Okay, Sasha, I moved closer to my router, so maybe now it would be better.
Oh, that's great. So I asked him, so what's your opinion when knight c3 should be played? And he showed me one variation, which goes like this. Knight d5, c4, c5. And here he says, now you should play knight c3. And if black will take, he will take. And after all this d6, you have a very strong continuation.
Who showed you this game?
Michael
Who
Tal.
showed you this?
Michael Tal.
Michael?
He
Okay,
showed me
this
this
system is not good for white.
bishop g5.
White
and
is worse here. Right.
But he told me that if black takes, then you have move queen b3. And let's say on any move h6 or doesn't matter what, you played bishop c4.
On bishop
And
c4. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a big problem with f7.
Yes, that's why black is not supposed to take on c3. After knight c3,
Yes.
black is supposed to play c6. And about equal.
Absolutely correct. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
I know because I play all my life Alichain, unfortunately, and so I know it quite well.
Yes, obviously, I wouldn't expect you to play this line with black, because obviously, if anybody knows something about Alekhine defense, it's definitely you. And but it was funny that Tal showed me this variation.
Oh yes, yes. Michael was very, I would say, very creative person. He could try to find some beautiful ideas. Even in the opening, he didn't play.
Yeah, and it's quite amazing that he was also very easygoing, very approachable. We spent a lot of time.
Yes, very friendly person.
Yeah, he was very, very friendly, very easygoing. It was just a pleasure to be around him. I remember one of our programs, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, was nothing but devoted to your post in Facebook when you were talking about chess of the past and present chess and so on. Now the borderline is probably by the time when computers became stronger than human beings, including world champion, it sort of started a new era in chess. Do you feel like that?
No, not at all. Not at all. I look at game. Some differences, not major differences. The computer played really 2 roles. One role is technical. Computer helps us to get information much faster. In the past, we used to get, let's say, I would buy 3 informants, or maybe even 5 if I can. I would keep one intact. I would cut other 2. I would cut games played in Alichain and Benka and other openings that play. Then I also would cut out games played by me, by my opponents, and I would paste them and put them in notebooks or in the envelopes, and I would try to get magazines from abroad, like Yugoslavian magazine or even American Chess Life. But it took more time. But I don't think this time was absolutely wasted, because during the process, when I was even gluing those things or cutting them off or even rewriting games, I was thinking about chess, about those positions. And it's more important. And today you're getting information in seconds, but and you're skipping this stuff, but you're also skipping thought process. Also, in my days, in your days, information, be it in form of books or in form of magazines or games, was very scarce. We had, like I was growing up and saying, as chess playing 50s, late 50s, says there were maybe like 20 chess books available, probably even less. But those were great books. Most of them were great books, like Lisicin, like Botvinnik's, like Capablanca's, like Glaskers and Gibsovich. And there are also great tournaments. There's sometimes great commentaries and so on. Today, we have opposite problem, the abundance of material. And it's important to kind of separate what is useful from what is not useful. And it's not always easy to decide. There are many border areas. Sometimes you can get great idea from the player who is, say, 2400 rated. Play against, say, another 2500 rated player. But the chances for this are quite small. The chances you'll get great idea from 2700 player playing 2800 player are greater. But should the games play 2400? But it has some risks. So it's other kind of decision which should be made today. So as far as therefore I would say, as far as collecting information, it's certainly better to be today. I wouldn't like to go to to gluing, but it's not a major difference. It's minor difference, and also computer is now a great analyst. But what is the help of computer? How much helpful it is? Computer certainly can help to check opening variation. Computer can check very quickly an opening system, which is like you're getting. I have some interesting opening idea, very sharp. In the past, I would spend hours checking myself, or I would call my friends and ask their opinions. Today, I can check it with computer, maybe even with more than one computer, with more than one program. And if there is a clear, one obvious error, computer can show it to me. Computer may also show me some new idea. Maybe not great idea, but good idea. Or maybe great idea, which I would further develop. So computer is certainly helpful. But to say that computer changes everything, or changes the understanding of chess, it's certainly nonsense, because even if you look at the openings people play right now, I look at position, for instance, in Catalan defense, which recently Kramnik played when he was world champion, and not just Kramnik alone, other great players playing Catalan positions. And I analyzed those positions with Sasonka probably around 1982. So like 30 years ago, I analyzed, and we both played those positions. So it's really, or people now play more, because of Berlin defense, which gave black great chances for equalizing, for drawing. People begin to play old kind of Joker piano games. They play bishop c4 and then d3, c3, and so on. Again, we used to play it also. It's not some great innovation. And the entire idea of Berlin, it was played by Oleg Romanishin. It was played by Oleg Romanishin in the 60s and 70s. And I
Yes.
played on some. So again, obviously, Kramnik put more beef in. Obviously, of course. But I guess also Romanishin got this idea from some of the player of the past. At least he told me so. So again, and to say that computer really revolutionizes chess, I don't see it in games, and and I certainly strongly disagree with this idea that because of computers, uh, adjournments are now impossible. I wrote an article with John Krumiller, a huge article, like 15 pages article, which was published in Chess Life 2 years ago and later reprinted, translated, reprinted into issues of 64, Russian magazine, Moscow. And there we prove, I think, beyond any reasonable doubts, that if most of the games of, say, of recent matches, like Karyakin, of recent match Karyakin or Caruana versus Carson, if they were adjourned on 40th, 41st, 42nd move, nothing, nothing earth-shaking would happen. The same way, if Fischer and Spassky, when they play their famous match, if they were armed with computer at the time, again, it wouldn't affect results of the adjournment too much. It would affect maybe very, very marginal, if at all. And we illustrated on some points, like, for instance, we'll take certain position where, say, Karyakin, where Carson was better in game 3 against Karyakin. His advantage was 1.5. Okay, so what?
if you look at some lines, sometimes it goes to 1.8, then it goes back to 1.4. It's really it's really nothing real. Okay, it wouldn't help. It will help him a little bit, but if I were on his place, I would rather use. You see, I would rather have both Sasonka and computer. But if I have to choose between Sasonka and computer, I would choose Sasonka.
Of course.
Even if it's to some extent maybe wrong, because I myself am a Sasonka. I myself is a human, so it makes sense to have another human and computer. But still, I would probably choose Sasonka. But if I would have a choice, I would have both Sasonka and Dzindzhikashvili. And if I can have Botvinnik, I would have great certainly Botvinnik and Platonov and Palatnik and computer. And so this idea of abandoning a journal was certainly nothing to do with, almost nothing to do with computers. It's simply kind of coincided. And as Botvinnik said in the time when he was already quite old, and he was very disappointed by his favorite student Kasparov, who introduced us quick chess, 25 minutes per game, which Kasparov hoped would bring chess on TV. Botvinnik said correctly, it's garbage, it wouldn't bring chess on TV. And Botvinnik called it in Russian, "Agluplение шахмат," which is dumbing down of chess. And he was 100% correct. That's why, while I would not say that current great players are worse than players of my generation, but I think that they didn't reach still there. Maybe if Magnus Carlsen played an old kind of chess with a Jordan, he would be as good as, say, perhaps Kasparov. But now I don't think he is reaching the levels of Kasparov, and Kasparov played, say, between 1985 and 2003. I think Kasparov, not just in 1 year, but in many years, was playing stronger than Magnus. It's not Magnus's fault. He doesn't have much time to think, and he doesn't have experience. He doesn't have experience of a Jordan. And I think it's not a great tragedy, but I think that for thoughtful people and many people who love chess, even people outside chess who love chess, they respect chess mostly for being a game of deep thinking, rather than just to be a game of quick moving. Again, Blitz is great, but it's like icing on the cake, like entertainment. It's not. You showed yourself, Sasha. My game was Lugi was very entertaining. I played very well. It was 5 minutes game. It was a nice game. You picked up without knowing. 5-minute game, but it's certainly exception rather than rule. And you cannot become a strong player by just playing blitz. You can become a strong player, a great player, by playing real chess, and then simultaneously you would use those talents in blitz as well.
Excellent. Lev, we will have a 1 minute break, and we will continue right after that. Okay?
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, Sasha.
Okay, let's have a commercial break now.
Okay, commercial break.
Lev, it's my other program on IBM TV on Wednesday is about investing. I know that you had quite esteemed students from the Wall Street, and
yes.
My concept is that chess players really should be very good at investing, because both really based on recognition of patterns, right?
Yes,
It's
but
the same.
you're right. But your commercial, which is very nice, reminded me about very old joke of late 80s in Russia, old anecdote, which I'm sure you know, about a Georgian man at the Red Square counting in 89, he was counting $100 ruble bills. But already by 1990, he was counting $100 bills. So it's making big progress. Ты знаешь, что это грузин считает 100 рублевки. Вот делом заниматься надо. В отношении нашему, regarding my students, there was, if you're interested, you can take a look. A couple of years ago, I think probably in 2017, it's easy to find on the internet. One of advantages of internet. There was a big story about me, like 7-8 cover story in Bloomberg magazine, and there they wrote a lot about my students from the business world, and they basically discussed this theory of yours, which was first, I think, introduced into was acted upon Norman Weinstein, whom you know, I'm sure,
Oh,
at least
yes.
by name, who was not only I used to play with him even in chess tournaments. He was strong international master. He was also one of the chief financial officer in I think in Banker Trust, and he had the same ideas as you. The chess player should be good in certain acting, like for instance in trading. We're supposed to be able to make quick decisions because we have sometimes to play blitzes or play Zeitnot. You have to make quick decisions based not based on full information. That one we'll have to gamble or guess statistic, probabilities. So based on this idea, he put some advertising in chess magazines, and he hired a group of people. He fired Max Dlugi, he fired Anna Shkharova, wife of Boris Gulko, he found
Yep.
Esther Epstein, wife of Alexander
Yes.
Ivanov from Boston, Grand Ivanov, and they all were quite successful. They didn't become, super traders, but they were quite successful, and Anna moved into programming of business programs. I guess Max was quite successful, as you know. You have been dealing with Max yourself, I remember,
Yes.
on many occasions. So you know even more about Max, the
Of
trader
course.
and businessman. So I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you. Those skills are probably somewhat translatable, and there's also, for same reason, there is assumption that chess players should be good in poker, and based on this assumption, maybe like 10, 15 years ago, a group of chess players, including my good friend from France, Almira Skripchenko, and her husband, Joel Latier, they started kind of a school of teaching poker. And as I know, some chess players did quite well in poker, including Skripchenko herself. I guess 1 year she won in Las Vegas like $20,000, and next year she won, I guess, $900. And I also heard about some American chess masters who did on the same scale, like they were not the winner of the winner of the tournament, which would bring several millions, but they were winning like half a million, 900,000, which is certainly much higher prizes in chess tournaments. And among top chess players, Grishuk is also playing poker and playing
Yes.
quite well.
Right. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I was always thinking about the future of chess and what lacks in chess to bring real masses like millions of people or so on. And it seems to me one of the reasons is the lack of money. What I mean is that, for example, if you take today world, you have a handful of players, say 15, maybe 20, no much more than 20, that they are really taking in almost 99.99% of all the money available in chess. They're taking in, look at Carlsen's tournaments all last year and sometime before that. And average players, they can watch online and listen to broadcast or so on, but there is no opportunity for them to make any actual money. On the other hand, if they would watch all the same games, but they would also provide their own predictions of the moves before they're actually made, And I've discussed this idea a lot with Maxim Dlugi, some other grandmasters, or so on. So they would still do the same thing. They would be watching online broadcast, see the games, but at the same time participate in the process by making predictions. And whoever makes the best predictions, or so on, they would win cash prizes. Not, it's not even so much about the cash issue. Is that I know even my experience, if there is a broadcast of some chess tournaments like US Championship or Carlson's tournament, it doesn't matter what. Okay, so you watch the game for 10 minutes, for example, right? Then you are going to do something else and you're coming back. Okay, so they exchange bishops. Okay, so you leave for another 20 minutes, coming back. Okay, something else has happened or so on. You're not really glued to the game as you if make predictions, and that would be very important for you to make as many predictions as possible as to win prize. And all of a sudden you're becoming a part of the process, and your engagement is much greater than just watching the game. What do you think? Is that an interesting proposition?
Okay, Sash, I mostly I'm a conservative person, as you know from interacting with me on Facebook. I'm a conservative person in everything, including in most things, not in everything, in most things, including my politics. And I'm also conservative in chess. I don't think changes would most changes wouldn't work. Those changes that would work would be marginal. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try. I discussed the same idea of predicting moves with my good friend Anatoly Bachulsky, who, as you know, who was running betting agency, and he was also sponsoring some chess tournaments in the
I
like
never
about
met him, but
10
I know him.
10
Yes.
years ago. Yeah, of course, you know, he was our mutual friend Palatnik was running his tournaments, and Machulski was thinking about it because it's kind of his business. But and Machulski told us that he was taking bets, let's say, on world championship, on world championship. But he also kind of publicly said that the match between Shinnik and Zenit, second league soccer team in Russia, would bring him more money than world championship match between, say, Kasparov and Kramnik or something like
Lev,
that.
it's slightly
There
different
would be
concept.
more betting people. It doesn't mean the new area cannot be discovered. Obviously, Kasparov's idea of chess on TV, 25 minutes game, didn't realize. But what was realized, as you know, was now we have chess instantly on internet. We have commentaries on internet. As you now you have those streams like you're doing, like I know Nakamura is doing, like some good-looking grandmaster girls are doing. So it's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. With all this, I cannot be a good advisor here. It's a certainly interesting thing. I like to predict. I like to predict moves, and what I like to predict and evaluate moves. Is what I kind of was good at doing. It was part of my profession. But what I would partly disagree with you and disagree with my good friend Geda Sasonka, who is like a job of chess, who were always lamenting about how things are getting worse and would become even worse, and so on and so forth. He's like biblical Job, Eov. I would say that I don't have so much. I'm not a pitiless man, but I don't have too much pity with today's grandmasters. First of all, today grandmaster it was nowadays used to be a master. So it doesn't mean that everyone should have full-time occupation. But second thing, today, a grandmaster of today, a grandmaster who was in first 100, can make probably $3,000-4,000 easily, just teaching chess in very leisurely way. And I used to know, even in the 90s, I met a woman, my friend in the student that field, who sponsored, as you know, Kasparov Karpov match in New York 1990. He introduced me to his friend, a lady from from Philadelphia, who rated about 1,500, who was teaching chess in Philadelphia schools, And he told us that, well, he's charging $100 an hour, and he's quite busy, and he's making about $400,000 a year. And besides that she was making herself, she's hiring other teachers who are weaker than her. He's teaching them to teach, and he's making another $500,000 on them. So it's if you have a gift for self-promotion, if you have a gift for organizing, for teaching, for something, you can be quite successful in chess, especially if you're grandmaster or even master.
Yeah, I
But
totally
so
agree.
to say that everyone who become a grandmaster should be like be paid, salary for life. Well, if I don't, I'm not against it. I don't want to pay them the salary, but if someone wants, I'm rather for free enterprise. If someone wants to pay those people, why not? But as far as your idea is concerned, I like your idea. I wish you good luck. And if it would be possible for me to participate, I would be glad to participate.
Absolutely. So, thank you, Lev. I'd like to ask you one thing. You mentioned earlier then about when you were talking about adjournments, number one, number two.
Right.
It seems to me that you're, should I say, traditionalist to the chess approach, especially classical games. So, why I have a question. Why they changed formula for chess world championship? First of all, they removed the right of the champion to retain his title in case of a draw. And second of all, they started to play shorter matches, like 12, 14. They're young grandmasters, Karyakin and Carlsen himself, of course,
Yeah.
and Caruana and so on.
I
What's
can-
the reason they cannot play 24 games and the champion
tell you, Sasha,
retains?
I can tell you, I don't know all the answers, but I think that one of the reasons was that in the end of 80s, there was a battle between FIDE on one hand and Garry Kasparov and some of chess players, many of chess players who were supporting him on the other hand. I in those days was actively supporting Kasparov mostly for political reasons. And because FIDE was closely connected with the Soviet Chess Federation, I wanted to harm FIDE in order to harm the Soviet Union, which was my main objective in life in those days.
Absolutely.
So, so basically, what we were doing, we are kind of fighting FIDE. We were separating Grandmaster chess from FIDE, and it was culminated in this short Kasparov match of 1993, which and then led to the break of FIDE,
Yes.
to the break of chess into organizations. But already close to it, already in late 80s, chess was becoming, people would FIDE lost a lot of its authorities, and players were begin to look for their interest, and basically we were thinking about, the amount of money in chess remains the same, or even partly, I wouldn't say it went down, but it was more spread. So players begin to come to the West more often, take prizes. So when you have almost the same money and more people to feed, well, they start decreasing prices here and there. Reacted well. We try to make it easier for us. And in fact, I would say it like mea culpa. I did it in public. I wrote about it. I make a contribution to it. I remember, I wouldn't say it's major contribution, so I was major, but I was one of those villains. I played in 1988 US Championship, and before it, we used to play 2.5 hours per game, and after that, the game was adjourned, and then it was played on adjourned day, 16 moves per hour for 6 hours. But Chess Federation of America was trying to save money, which is understandable. So they didn't give us too many adjourned days and give us only one free day, which was basically used for adjourned. So I remember in 1987, we had plenty of adjourned games. In fact, so many that the arbiters were scared, and they make us, well, they make us play some of the adjourned games in the morning between the main round. Let's say round starts at 3 o'clock, but we were playing from 10 to 12, the adjourned game from previous round, and you as a chess player can imagine it's really quite difficult. Plus, of course, the whole night analyzing the position. So at this tournament in '88, I was second eldest player in the group. Only Ginger was 1 year older than I. They said, look, I knew I'm doing something wrong, but I was selfish. And again, in those days, my main interest was not chess, but the Soviet Union. So I said, look, Lev, I said to myself, why? I don't want those endurance. I know endurance are good. I know endurance is good for developing end-game skills, but it's for those young players. I don't need to develop my end-game skills. I already have done it. So when the discussion started, what to do, how we can decrease the number of adjourned, I joined with my authority of one of leading US players, and my Soviet experience and so on. I joined on the side of those who advocated for change of the regime. And the change was really minor. We still have the same time control, 2.5 hours to 5 for 40 moves. But what we did, we make this adjourned session, we make people to play 7-hour session. In other words, you play 2.5 hours for 40 moves, and then would break, play another 2 hours, for 16 moves. And this, of course, sharply cuts the number of adjourned. Sharply. Step in the wrong direction. A couple of years later, they decided to simplify it further. Instead of 2.5 hours for 40 moves, they make it 2 hours for 40 moves, and then 1 hour for 20 moves. And from there, they progress to current situation where they have those, Armageddons and Suddens and so on and so forth. It's simply easier. The same thing with World Championships. The money went down. Kasparov has his own system. FIDE has his own system. They decide, okay, who cares? We don't have big money. We have, say, not $3 million, not $4 million, not $10 million like Marcus was offering for Fischer's match with Karp.
Yes.
We have only $1.5 million. Okay, we'll make it 12 games. For players, it's better. And, if I would be giving a choice, if someone today would ask me, Lev, you're playing match against someone, it doesn't matter. You play match on, let's say, on equal terms. I play against someone who is of my strengths, or I'm playing some great players who would give me a handicap, say 2 to 5, say give me some time or pawn up. Would you prefer to play? Would you prefer to play for the same sum of money 24 games match or this match? Of course, I would say 2 games match. It's my interest. But so organizers should insist on longer matches, and player would accept it. But of course, to express themselves, to ask for longer matches, is expect too much. Albeit I would say that to Carson credit, after he played his last match with Karl, he said himself that probably 14 game match would be better, and maybe 16 would be even better. To which I would say, look, it was all tried. It was all tried by Botvinnik and others. 24 games match, and as you correctly said, this is champion keep his title. This is no Armageddon. Champion keep his title.
Exactly. Lev, what's most important is that would eliminate addition of all this rapid chess, Armageddon chess, blitz chess, or so on, because it's a different chess from classical chess. So if it's a classical world championship, one would expect that it would be solved over the board in classical chess control, and if champion retains title in the case of a draw. So I would think that both Karyakin and Caruana, they would play different chess. They would be maybe more aggressive. Their opening choice would be different. Do you think so?
Well, it's possible, Sasha. It's certainly possible. In fact, I would say it's very likely. I don't think it's something really terrible. I don't think this Armageddon is really Armageddon. But I don't think it's the best way to decide the world champion, the title. In fact, as you may remember, in old days, when, say, in candidate matches there was a draw, they were simply played 2 extra games, and it was still a draw, another game, another that they would play up to the first win. In fact, when there was a draw in the match between Smyslov and Kirchner, instead of even instead of playing any kind of breaks, be it
Roulette.
serious, they use the roulette, which I think roulette is more fair in such case than blitz. Blitz is fine, but and I would say objectively, as you know, chess gifts are spread more or less evenly. And as Fischer was the best in the world, he also was the best player in the world. And the same was true for Kasparov. The same was true for Tal, for many others.
Yes.
But as you also know, there are some exceptions. There are some not very strong players who play great blitz. They don't play champions, but they come close, like Chipaitis, for instance.
Absolutely.
But there are also some, like some you knew from Odessa, Yefim Geller, who was quite lousy blitz player. In fact, he loved to play chess, to play blitz.
Oh, Juchman was crushing him in blitz. I remember
Geller playing Kogan chess, blitz. 5 minutes and playing on equal terms, and Kogan wasn't even a strong master. And when Yakov Yuchman, whom you know, he was giving Geller 3-5 and was beating him very easily. He simply was taking money from him. And as he admitted to me, he could easily beat him 2-5. And Geller, but he kind of task was 2-5. He played 3-5, and Yuchman simply would come, play 10 games, like I guess 3 rubles per game, got his 30 rubles at the restaurant.
Lev, do you remember, have you witnessed that episode? Remember when Fischer made an offer that he will give, I think, a piece, a handicap to any woman in the world. And late Misha Feinberg said that I would accept that and I would play a match. And nobody can beat me with
Yuchman said that.
And Yuchman said, "Here I am. Okay, let's do it." Have you witnessed it?
It's a true story. Again, I don't think that Yuchman would necessarily beat Michael Feinberg in serious game, even 2 hours of 40 moves.
No,
albeit I wouldn't say. I don't think it would be too easy for Michael to beat Yuchman, because as you may remember, maybe like 15 years ago, Kasparov was playing match. I think it was blitz or semi-blitz. No, maybe not blitz. It was like 1 hour chess. He was playing against some British master, like 2300 player, maybe 2400. And he was giving him 2 pawns odds, different pawns.
Oh.
Sometimes A and B, sometimes even say F and D, which is not very pleasant pair to give up, especially F pawn. And Gary won eventually. It was fight. He lost some games. He won on balance. He won. It's not easy to win. I try to play, some strong grandmaster play against, say, Fritz, with Fritz giving him 1 pawn odds, and it was more or less equal play. It's not easy to win against very strong player, and Yuchman, of course, was very, very strong. But of course, what Yuchman had in mind, and what Michael Feinberg wisely decided not to try, Yuchman had in mind not a serious game, but he had in mind blitz. And I would say in 5 minutes blitz, I would bet on Yuchman. 5 minutes blitz. 5 minutes, yes, he was very good. He was very good. I was, as you know, I was giving odds to our mutual friend Michael Berdichevsky. I was giving him funny odds like knight for a pawn and f7 or things like that. I once give to Berdichevsky and queen odds. Queen for, I guess, queen for nothing, but he was giving me, but it was like 3 minutes or 2 minutes, little time, but he was giving me enormous 25-1 odds and 12 for a draw. And of course, initially he was winning, but I make the right assumption, and it was easy for me because as a stronger player, it was easy for me to guess the odds. I make a right assumption that after, say, 30-40 games, we both will get tired. But first of all, for me, it would be less burden than for him. And secondly, my mistake would cost me 1 ruble, and his mistake would cost him 25 rubles. So it's so eventually it's 25-1. 25-1 are not good odds. No, are not good odds.
It's a great story. I remember at the time, while I was probably 16 years old, I was playing maybe a candidate master level.
Right,
and
right.
And Newman offered me to play blitz games, and he would give me a rook odds. I was flabbergasted. I said, "How could you do that? A rook odds? Sure, I will play you." And we played 3 minutes games, 10 games. I didn't make even one draw. And the interesting thing is, of course, my strategy was to exchange as many pieces as possible, and then extra rook will will do the trick. But first of all, it wasn't easy to exchange.
3 minutes are not, yes, unless you're already very strong blitz players, 3 minutes is difficult. Since 3 minutes are difficult, Yuchman, of course, was very well trained, especially for such encounters.
Yeah. No, he was really, really good blitz player.
Right.
And very talented overall.
Oh, yes. He could be. He really could be, if not world champion, he could be a candidate, if not his disqualifications, if not for his spending too much time making money, like playing chess with amateurs on Odessa beaches.
Yeah.
If he would study chess a little more, yes, he would be very strong grandmasters. He would play in Soviet championships, and he could play in candidate matches, definitely.
Oh, he was apparently, he was playing all kinds of games, card games and backgammon and just anything.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Right. Anything. Yes.
I remember one very funny story. At one time, and actually that's where I met Nava, I was coming to, remember Odessa Dom Офицера, it's the officers' clubhouse or something. So Kogan was there. Yeah, Kogan was there conducting his students, and he was teaching. But the main thing, what Kogan liked was he was playing Preference. It's a card game popular in Russia, and I was coming there especially to play Preference. And normally it was 4 players like myself, Kogan, and he would invite 2 officers. To play a game, and Kogan was calling Preference as a great equalizer, because he was saying, look, I have 2 diplomas and I'm making, say, 200 rubles a month, and these officers are making 1,000 rubles a month. So the god created Preference to equalize a little bit all this. So we were playing, and some other players like Sugrobov, Klubis was playing, some others. And actually, it's very soon I was playing very, very strong game in Preference, and Yuchtman was there a few times. And Human complained, Kogan told me later about it. Yuchtman complained, "What are you doing? You're idiots. This guy," and he said that he's stuffed with money. He comes to your place and he's taking all your money and you're helpless. What's the purpose? Why are you doing that? Kogan says, well, it's a game. It's a proper game. So he's a good player. He says, oh, don't forget it. What kind of a good player he is? If you will give him miser and he will take 6 tricks, you will win easily. All you have to prearrange that, change cards, and you'll get him. And you know what exactly? They were so nervous. Somebody knocked at the door. So Kogan asked me to open the door. So I went to open the door, came, and here I have a miser. It's like you have 5 of one suit and 4 of the other suit, and 1 that if it's not your move, you will get 6 tricks. And that's exactly what happened. But they were so nervous. And after that, they started to losing all kind of games, like 7 or 8 tricks, and they would be without 2, and so on. And by taking all the wrists or so on, eventually I won this game. So when he found about it, he says, oh my God, I didn't know you are such idiots that you can't even win the game. And the guy got 120 points. So anyway, but there were a lot of funny stories about Youthman. Anyway, he's quite interesting. Lev, listen, I think that there is so much discussed. I wanted to discuss with you chess politics and even maybe not only chess politics, but other points. Because you, even if I don't agree with you 100% on everything, but it's a great pleasure to have you and your points of view. I hope that you will improve your internet and computer settings. And I'm really, really looking forward to have you soon again.
Yeah,
It's,
I guess the last part was very good because I was near to my Wi-Fi, so we heard each other very well. Sasha, enjoy being on your show. Enjoy what you're doing.
thank you so much, Lev.
Stay in touch. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. It was IBM TV Chess Show, evening or afternoon, should I say, with Grandmaster Lev Alburt. Bye-bye, everybody.